Welcome back to part 2 of topic 27, Multiplication Properties of Exponents. So if you look at your foldable, this is going to be the middle section, and I promise these problems actually match up with this section which is on top of it. So we have power of a power. Okay, for any number a in all integers m and m, again, these are just talking about numbers here. We have a to the m power, and then we notice how we have parentheses here, raised to the n power. So that's the same thing as saying a to the m times n. So notice here we're multiplying. So when we have a power raised to a power, we're dealing with multiplication. So if we want to simplify, in the example it goes right below, b to the fifth all raised to the third. This is the same thing as b to the fifth, or b to the 5 times 3, which 5 times 3 is 15, so b to the 15th power. Same thing, simple as that. So if we open up this flap, we're going to have our first example of y to the 5th raised to the 2nd. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply our exponents here. So we have y to the 5 times 2. 5 times 2 is 10, so we get y to the 10th power. Now our next example, this one is going to combine what we learned in part 1 with part 2, because guys, math is cumulative. I did not say that word properly. Actually, cumulative. There we go. Okay, so notice here how we have x to this x squared raised to the 5th power, and then again times x to the 3rd. So let's just break it down, do it one part at a time. So if we have x to the 2 times 5, if we break that down first, that gives us what? That gives us x to the 10th. Then we can rewrite our second part as x cubed right below it. So notice here how when we're multiplying these, they actually have the same base. And what do we do when we're multiplying two numbers that have the same base? Well, we add their exponents. So our answer is actually going to be x to the 10 plus 3, or x to the 13th. There you go. Okay, moving on to our next example. So we have the quantity negative 3 a b to the 4th all raised to the 3rd power. Now here, notice what we have. We have negative 3, this is a to the 1st power, b to the 4th, all raised to the 3rd. So what this is saying is this is negative 3 also to the 1st power. So when we multiply it, we're going to multiply every single term. We're going to raise every single term to that 3rd power. So if we were to rewrite this, this is going to be negative 3 to the 1 times 3. We're going to have a to the 1 times 3, and we're going to have b to the 4 times 3. So notice here how I had this exponent, I had it outside. So we kept, let's do a different color. We kept this negative 3 inside my parentheses. Now that's going to be really important when simplifying. In this case, it might not look that much different because we're dealing with an odd exponent, that positive 3 there. But it will change it up if we ever have even exponents, So if we have negative 3 to the 1 times 3 is negative 3 to the third power. If we have a to the 1 times 3, that's a to the third power. And b to the 4 times 3, that's b to the 12th power. Oops. So what we can do now is we can simplify this bit right here. Our a cubed and our b to the 12th, we can't simplify that any further. But we can simplify what's negative 3 to the third power. So that's the same thing as negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. So we have negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. So we know negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. Bring down that negative 3 again, and we get negative 27. So this is going to give us negative 27 a times a cubed times b to the 12th. And that's our first thing here. So, last example for this part. For a squared, that entire quantity is squared, times b cubed. Now notice how this b cubed is just like chilling alone. The exponent that it's raised to is really to the first power. Remember, if we don't see an exponent, it's automatically to the first. However, if we were to multiply this 3 times 1, it's actually not going to change anything. So let's focus on what I underlined in green right now. So if we want to split this up, this is really 4 to the first power. So we have 4 to the 1 times 2 times a squared times 2. Again, we're going to be distributing this squared. It applies to everything within that quantity. And then times b to the 3 times 1 if we actually want to multiply that out. So 4 to the 1 times 2 is just going to give us 4 squared. A to the 2 times 2 is just a to the 4th. And then b to the 3 times 1 is just b cubed. So if we want to simplify this any further, we get 4 squared is 16 times a to the 4th times b cubed. And that is our last example. So that is part 2 of topic 27. Thank you all for watching.